Alright YouTube, the 28 pages was released a week ago. Now I wanted to make a video on this, but by the time I got around to it on my list, my webcam had crapped out and I'm not going to make a fairly important video without video. It's just not going to happen. The 28 pages have been released. Obama finally got around to doing that. However, they're largely useless because they are still, of course, redacted, which means that you're not seeing some of the things you would need to actually see in order to know what's going on. It's an interesting read. It does, as I said, did I not say this, Saudi involvement. The Saudis were directly involved in financing and training the hijackers. It was a Saudi job. Now, when I say this, part of Saudi involvement is Mossad, Israeli interests. They're intertwined. They partner with one another constantly. It also involves presumably Pakistan. Is there a reason why fucking Osama fled over into Pakistan from Afghanistan and was left alone for several years? I think so. You see, the Saudis and the Pakistanis are joined at the hip. The Saudis financed the Pakistani nuclear arsenal in exchange for being able to obtain some of those same atomic weapons on short notice. So it's kind of a little tit for tat between these two countries. Therefore, all three of these states are essentially involved. Now, why wouldn't the White House at the time of 9/11 really want people to know about this? Because the Saudis had the oil, and we hadn't had our own oil boom. The Israelis are like, oh, we must defend Israel, they're our greatest ally. The Pakistanis are an atomic state. Yes, a crude one, with crude atomic weapons, not fully capable modern thermonuclear ones. But at the same time, you don't really want to get involved with them, especially when you're trying to keep them under your thumb, because at the time they were seen as a more important, than now that we've got India kind of on board, as a more important sort of regional ally, so-called, one that we give a lot of money to be our friends. I don't agree with this sentiment, but apparently Bush did. So yeah, 28 pages were released. They show quite clearly, yeah, there was Saudi involvement, and I will echo the same thing I've always said. Most of these people talking about nanothermite, or Bush did 9/11, or there was some Illuminati conspiracy, some of these people are just idiots. That is, they want something more, or I shouldn't say idiots. Let me clarify that. They're not idiots. They understood it was fishy, and then they looked around for the most insane-sounding conspiracy theory because it excites them. That's not stupid, it's just delusional, I suppose you could call them. The rest of them, those that are actually pushing these theories, often enough, very early on, were government agents, of course, because if you have an actual scandal, like, oh yeah, the FBI and all of these other groups were caught completely with their pants down, they should have known what was going on, they ignored critical intelligence all the way up to the chain to Cheney and Bush themselves. They then misused that same attack to go to war in Iraq, as well as to go stumble around in Afghanistan despite knowing Osama had probably already left and gone to Pakistan. They just were tied down by bureaucracy and couldn't fucking do anything about it because Pakistan had atomic weapons. Can you imagine what absolute shitstorm would have erupted? Bush would have been impeached immediately if people knew the full scope of the government's culpability in the attack. Not by causing it, but by not stopping something they should have seen coming. They got intel from foreign countries. They then just promptly invaded several countries that really didn't have anything to do with it. It would have led to his impeachment, removal from office, and a trial for treason. Cheney, same thing. Many of these others, the head of the FBI, he'd be in a jail cell right now. And so, they decided to cover it up. Oh, you better don't give those pages out to people, because if people find out that it was actually financed by our supposed ally, with help from another supposed ally, with more help from another supposed ally that has atomic weapons, a shitstorm would erupt. They didn't want to be found out for their own stupidity and their own culpability in what went on. It's like Pearl Harbor. They knew Pearl Harbor was probably going to happen. They let it happen. They didn't cause it themselves. It was a Japanese attack, but they knew that things were going to go wrong, and they let them happen so that they could go off to war, the same as with 9/11. It's exactly the same thing. Bush was just a dumbass. Probably people around Bush didn't even trust him enough to give him the intel. They probably gave it to Cheney anyway, because they thought Bush was a stupid, dumb, incoherent baboon, which he kind of is. So that's really what the 28 pages boiled down to. There's a reason why senators and congressmen who read this report said, oh yeah, Saudis were involved and we should release this material. Why do you think they fucking waited? People got bored of 9/11 around 2011. 2011. Like 10 years later, time goes by, wounds heal, supposedly, and people sort of forgot all about it. They had to wait till Bush was out of office. Obama didn't want that shitstorm on his watch because things had already gotten hyper-partisan. Now that he's outgoing, he doesn't fucking care anymore, so he releases them. Oh, Hillary can deal with it. When people dig a little bit further and realize what actually happened, Hillary Clinton can deal with it. Or Donald Trump can deal with it. That's probably what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump throws the Bushes under the bus, honestly. Clinton would defend them. Clinton's obviously in bed with the Bushes, basically has their endorsement anyway at this point. So yeah, the 28 pages are released. Saudi Arabia was responsible. We invaded the wrong country. There are 3 countries that we should have attacked, and none of them were Iraq or Afghanistan. That's about all. Peace out.